Welcome back to It's Your Environment. I'm George Curtis, and we've got a new guest, Greg Siebold. Welcome to the show.
Hi, George. Glad to see you again.
Well, you know about 100 times more about Alaska than I do, and it really bothers me, and I'm jealous that you spent another part of a summer up there. But would you tell our guests just a little bit about the experience you've had in Alaska previously? You've lived up there.
Yeah, back in '81, I moved up to Alaska, and I lived up there 7 years. It's a great place. I enjoyed it. I definitely can see the change that's gone on in the last 27 years since I've been there.
Well, some of those changes involve better highways, traffic, lots of tourists, and the most famous sign that I keep quoting is the sign outside Anchorage that says, Anchorage, Alaska, or 50 miles from Alaska or something like
Right,
that.
yeah, the common thing up there is Anchorage is only 10 minutes from Alaska. But yeah, the traffic in Anchorage, Anchorage is 270,000 people. I think in 1970 it was like 70,000 people, so there's a ton of people. Everybody's in a hurry, just like down here. And we almost had an accident, of course, but the traffic's changed. The roads are a lot better, especially going down to the Kenai Peninsula. The highway is probably 10 times as good as it was when I first moved up there. They did a lot of work on the road back in the 80s and the 90s, and now it's just a nice trip. Either whether you want to go down to Seward, which is like an hour and a half, 2 hours from Anchorage, or if you want to go all the way down to Homer, which is like a 5-hour trip. It's a nice ride.
So you flew into Anchorage, rented a car, visited some friends, did a little sightseeing, and then you went fishing, and I guess you had quite an adventure there.
Yeah, we did. Well, when we first got up there, we took the train up from Anchorage up to Denali, Mount McKinley, and we went back into Kantishna, which is back at the end of the road. It was a great trip. Saw a lot of wildlife. Saw moose, bear, wolves, boreal owls, everything you can think of. After that, we came back and went down the Kenai Peninsula, which is the area I used to guide in back in the early '80s. I guided for 3 years down there, raft trips and flyout fishing trips and such. It was kind of interesting because Cooper Landing is where the Russian River and the Kenai River, the confluences come together, and it's one of the best fishing spots in Alaska. And of course, because it's accessible by road from Anchorage, a lot of people drive down there. And as we talked about, there's a lot of combat fishing. In other words, people shoulder to shoulder. We went up the second week in July because that's when usually the best king salmon fishing is going on in the Kenai River, and also the second run of sockeyes come in, which is a large run. And while we were there, one day they counted 68,000 kings coming up the Kenai River, and by the time we had taken a raft trip, they were on the upper part of the river, and people were catching them all over the place. So, but the interesting thing was in Cooper Landing, it's a town of about 300 people. As I said, 100 miles south of Anchorage. In the last few years, there's been a lot of brown bear down there. And ironically, 3 years ago, we were staying at the Princess Lodge in Cooper Landing, and just a couple days after we left, one of the employees got mauled by a brown bear. And we thought that was kind of interesting. We just missed it. Not that we wanted to see it, but luckily we were gone. This time we're staying at the Princess Lodge, and the first night we were there, unfortunately, an employee left the grounds and went down to the river just for a peaceful setting, and came back up, and when she got about 5 feet from the lodge, she went down to pick up a flower, and I guess a brown bear came out of the bushes and mauled her. And she was in critical condition, tore off part of her scalp, broke her jaw. And the thing that saved her, I guess, is it happened at 11 o'clock, and still not dark, of course, at 11 o'clock. When the patrons came out of the lodge and started yelling at the bear, and his daughter was there, and he had her run to get a gun. And but basically what he did is he scared the bear away, and he saved her life. And it was kind of interesting because she had, in the paper, it was on the front page of the Anchorage News the next day, she had called her mom, and she was a little upset because she was the only one at the lodge that hadn't seen a bear. And ironically, after she got mauled, she was on the helicopter going up to Anchorage, and she said, "Make sure you tell my mother I saw a bear." So she was in good spirits, even though she was quite badly mauled.
Well, with more people in Alaska and lots of wildlife, it seems to me that we're having more person-animal confrontations and problems with bear, problems with moose, because they're somewhat losing the fear of mankind, don't you think?
Definitely. I mean, like we were talking, when I worked in Cooper Landing, there were always brown bear down in this area, but you didn't see them as much as you see them today. I used to go down the river and we see black bear all the time, but they say there's like 25 brown bear in the Cooper Landing area, and that is not a good quota in that area because so many people go down there. A lot of sightings, but every couple of years now, people are getting mauled. So they're going to have to do something about it. The moose, on the other hand, just like bear, if you get too close to them, they'll charge you. I had a moose charge my raft years ago. I had one client in it, and it's the first time I'd ever been able to roll upriver in a raft. Stopped about 10 feet from us, and it basically, they really scared the crap out of me. But other than that, yeah, there's a lot more people going down there, and you're going to have more situations when that happens.
Now, people can easily be puzzled about what type of salmon are running, because you've got different kinds of fish that use the same river. Now, you can always depend on Dolly Varden. They're like bullheads around here. They're all the time. But there's some early run fish. I think that's king is one. There's some middle of the summer fish, like the red run you mentioned, and then the silvers, which are pretty much the second half of the summer. But or did I mix that up?
No, it's pretty true. I mean, in early spring and May, the guys will go fishing. Now, I'm talking mainly on the Kenai Peninsula, that's south of Anchorage. In May, they'll go fishing for king salmon. They have their first run. They start coming in, and they get some real nice fish, fresh fish out of the ocean. That's when a lot of the good halibut fishing it starts up. And then the first run on the Kenai of sockeye salmon starts about the 12th of June, 15th of June, and runs for about 2 weeks, and that's the lesser run. Then there's like a 2-week lull until the middle of July. Then the second run of kings come in, the Chinook salmon. Those are the bigger ones. And a friend of mine up there actually has a world's record, 97.4 pounds, and it still hasn't been broken. He caught that, I think, in 86 or 87. Les Anderson, good friend. Anyways, and then the second run of sockeye come in. And while we were up there, a counter that they have down there counted 68,000 sockeye salmon coming in. So by the time we went down the river, the salmon were all over the river, and it's really a great sight to see. You can take your raft, you'd be floating over hundreds of fish, and they just scatter like minnows in this area.
And of course, if you want to take a break, you can always get on a boat and fish halibut or ling cod, which are two of the most delicious fish in the world.
They really are. We went down to Homer. Again, there were a lot of boats coming in with tourists that were catching fish, and they had these big stringers of halibut and ling cod. And other rockfish and different fish. So it's always fun to go over there and look at the fish. But I also enjoy watching the guides clean these big, 100-pound halibut. It takes them, less than a minute to clean the thing, and it's really fun to see that.
Greg, last question. People often ask me when is the best time to go to Alaska. I always say when you can get there, but if I had my pick, it would be after Labor Day, because most of the tourists have disappeared, and now it's you, the fish, and Alaskans.
Well, if you're a true fisherman, that's when you're going to catch your biggest rainbows, your biggest dollies, and the silvers are in. I like to go because I like to combine the sightseeing and some of the fishing. I'm not an ardent fisherman or anything, but I like to go in July. I think around the 4th of July, you're probably going to be lucky. But like I tell everybody, if you're going to go to Alaska, expect it to rain every day. And unfortunately, this trip, it rained every day. But because of that, our wildlife viewing was great. Like I said, we saw moose, we saw whales, we saw just about everything you can see. But it just depends what you want to do. If you want to go fishing for kings and that, I'd say the second run on the Kenai River, go like mid-July, and then until it closes at July 31st. So that's when you'll probably have your best opportunity to catch a king. We went king fishing this year, unfortunately. My stepson Nick caught a 35-pounder. I shouldn't say unfortunately. Lucky for him, unfortunately for the other three of us, we didn't catch anything. But it was a real good experience. I was real proud of my stepson and my wife, who was a trooper in one of the other situations that happened with us. We were taking a raft trip, and the guy wanted to take a back channel, and long story short, there was a sweeper blocking the river, so we all had to do the emergency stuff, and some of the tourists got a little nervous about that, but I was real proud of, especially my wife, some of the things she did. It was great.
Welcome back. Always good to hear from you. I'm jealous, and again, you didn't bring us any fish.
I'm sorry, but next time maybe.